They had it all, the fame, fortune, and a love story the world admired. Zyrell Mays, a rap superstar, and his wife, Keria, a beloved social media influencer, were the embodiment of success. Their lavish lifestyle, red carpet appearances, and picture-perfect family made them hip-hop royalty. But behind the diamond-studded facade, something was brewing, something dark, something deadly. On Mother's Day, a day meant for celebration, their love story took a turn so violent, so unthinkable, that it left even the most hardened detectives shaken. Inside their million-dollar mansion, Keria's final moments were filled with horror beyond imagination. Blood on the marble floors. A man, once devoted, now drenched in rage. A betrayal, real or imagined, that pushed him past the point of no return. What could make a man, adored by millions, turn into a monster in the blink of an eye? What did Keria say in her last breaths? And why, after everything they had built together, did Zyrell feel like he had no choice but to destroy it all? Tonight, we take you inside the crime that shattered a family, stunned the music industry, and left the world asking one haunting question: what really happened behind closed doors? Before we unravel the horrifying details of this case, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because trust me, you won't believe how this one ends. Keria Mays was the kind of woman people either admired or envied, sometimes both. At just 29 years old, she had built an empire from nothing, turning her social media presence into a multi-million-dollar brand. She wasn't just an influencer, she was a lifestyle. Luxury cars, designer bags, extravagant vacations, everything about her life screamed success. But beyond the material things, it was her message that kept millions of women hanging onto her every word. She preached loyalty, black love, and traditional family values. To her followers, she was living proof that if you carried yourself like a queen, you'd be treated like one. But not everyone saw her as an inspiration. Critics called her delusional, out of touch, even toxic. They accused her of pushing outdated ideals and setting unrealistic expectations for relationships. But Keria didn't care. She had her dream life, and nothing could convince her otherwise. Then came Zyrell Mays, better known as Zyrell. At 33, he was one of the biggest rappers to come out of Texas in the last decade. His rise to fame was the definition of a street legend. From selling mixtapes out of his trunk to selling out arenas, he built his career on raw, unfiltered storytelling, tales of struggle, survival, and self-made success. He was the kind of artist who made people believe in the impossible. And when he and Keria got together, their love story felt like a hip-hop fairy tale. They met at an exclusive industry event in Houston, and from the moment they locked eyes, it was electric. The chemistry, the passion, it was undeniable. Within weeks, their romance was playing out on social media for the world to see. Lavish dinner dates, spontaneous private jet trips, diamond-studded gifts. Zyrell didn't just love Keria, he showed it. Every post, every caption, every video screamed devotion. He called her his queen, his day one, the woman he planned to build a legacy with. And Keria? She soaked it all in, convinced she had found the man who matched her energy, her ambition, and her loyalty. To their fans, they were the definition of goals. A power couple dripping in wealth, fame, and black excellence. But the moment that solidified their love story in the public eye was the announcement of their first child. When Keria revealed she was pregnant with Zyrell Jr., the internet went into a frenzy. This wasn't just a relationship anymore, it was a dynasty in the making. Photo shoots, gender reveals, luxurious baby showers, it was a spectacle, a celebration of their love and success. But as much as the world admired them, they only saw what Zyrell and Keria wanted them to see. Behind the expensive gifts and viral love notes, something far more complex was brewing. Something dangerous. Something that no amount of money, status, or love could protect them from. Love and loyalty were everything to Zyrell Mays. He built his brand on it, rapped about it, lived by it. To the world, he had it all, a beautiful wife, a son carrying his name, and a life most people could only dream of. But behind the diamond-studded chains and extravagant gifts, something darker was growing inside him. A whisper in the back of his mind. A feeling he couldn't shake. Zyrell had always had trust issues. The streets taught him that loyalty was rare, and betrayal could come from the people closest to you. He had seen it before, friends turning into enemies, lovers lying through their teeth, people using him for what he could offer. And no matter how much he wanted to believe Keria was different, the doubt wouldn't go away. At first, he ignored it. Told himself it was paranoia, his own demons trying to sabotage the one good thing in his life. But then, the whispers started. His boys would joke about how the baby didn't really look like him, how Keria had a past before him. At industry events, people would bring up old rumors about her exes. Even online trolls, people who didn't even know them, were saying it. That baby don't got a single one of Zyrell's features. He brushed it off at first, but once the idea was planted, it took root. Every time he looked at his son, he started seeing the cracks. The nose, the skin tone, the shape of his eyes, it wasn't just in his head anymore. He couldn't unsee it. And once that door was open, there was no closing it. So he did what any man in his position would do. He needed the truth. Late one night, when Keria was asleep, he crept into the nursery. He held his son close, kissed his forehead, then gently swabbed the inside of his cheek. The next morning, he sent the DNA test off without a word. He told himself it was just to put his mind at ease, to silence the doubt once and for all. But deep down, he already knew the answer. As the days passed, Zyrell's mood shifted. He became distant, distracted. Small things started setting him off. He'd stare at Keria across the dinner table, watching the way she moved, the way she spoke, searching for a sign of guilt in her face. But she was the same as she had always been, loving, confident, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside him. Then, the night before Mother's Day, his phone buzzed. The results were in. His hands shook as he opened the email. 0% probability of paternity. The world around him went silent. His breath came in short gasps. His vision blurred. He read it again. 0%. Everything he had built, everything he believed in, it was all a lie. Humiliation. Rage. Betrayal. They all crashed over him at once. His hands clenched into fists. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might explode. He pictured Keria, smiling, holding their son, playing the role of a devoted wife while she laughed behind his back. While she let him believe he was a father. He thought about the industry, the people who already doubted him, the ones who would be the first to spread the news. The ones who would say he was weak, that he got played, that the great Zyrell was just another fool who got taken for everything he had. He wanted to confront her, to scream in her face, to make her feel the pain she had just inflicted on him. But as he sat there, shaking, his mind spiraled into something darker. This wasn't just betrayal. This was disrespect. A disrespect so deep it couldn't be forgiven. Couldn't be fixed. And as the clock in the mansion ticked toward midnight, a decision was made. Mother's Day started like a dream. Keria Mays woke up to flowers, expensive gifts, and a heartfelt Instagram post from Zyrell, praising her as the perfect wife and mother. Their family gathered for brunch in their mansion, laughter and love filling the space as Keria cradled their son. If she noticed the way Zyrell's eyes lingered on her, the tightness in his jaw, the way he barely spoke, she didn't say anything. He played his part perfectly. He kissed her, smiled for pictures, held their son like nothing was wrong. But inside, he was counting down the minutes. By the time the last guest left, silence settled over the house. Keria carried their son upstairs for his nap, humming softly, still floating in the warmth of the day. Zyrell followed. His hands in his pockets, fingers twitching. The DNA results burned in his mind like a wildfire. He had spent all night rehearsing this moment, replaying how it would go. He told himself he would stay calm. He told himself he just wanted to hear her admit it. But the second she turned around to face him, that plan disintegrated. Without a word, he threw the printed DNA results onto the bed. Keria frowned, confused, then picked up the paper. She read it once. Then again. Her face paled. Zyrell's voice was cold. Whose baby is it? She looked up at him, blinking fast. What? Zy, this has to be a mistake. Whose baby is it, Keria? His voice shook the walls. Keria took a step back, her hands trembling as she clutched the paper. I swear to God, Zy, I don't know how. Don't lie to me. His breathing was heavy, his chest rising and falling like he had just run a marathon. You played me. You let me raise another man's son. You made me a joke. Keria's face twisted in pain. Tears welled in her eyes. Zy, I love you. I love our family. He scoffed. Our family. He took a slow step forward. That's not my son. That's some other niggas kid, and you let me believe, his voice cracked. How long, Keria? How long? She shook her head frantically. Baby, please, I don't. Zyrell grabbed her wrist, hard. Her breath hitched. For the first time, fear flashed across her face. You made me look like a fool. His grip tightened. You let the whole world think I was a father. You let me love him. Keria tried to pull away. Zy, stop, you're scaring me. She lunged for her phone on the nightstand, but Zyrell was faster. He shoved her, sending her crashing onto the bed. Her breath left her in a sharp gasp. Panic took over her face. Please, Zy, just listen. But he wasn't listening. His mind was a storm of humiliation, betrayal, and rage. His vision blurred as he stormed to the closet, ripping open the drawer where he kept his hunting knife, a gleaming, razor-sharp blade, a gift from his security team. His fingers curled around the handle like it had been waiting for this moment. Keria scrambled back on the bed, her hands raised. Zy, don't do this. Please. Please. He wasn't hearing her. The first stab landed in her shoulder, cutting off her scream. The second, deep in her stomach. Then there was no stopping. Zyrell's rage exploded, and the knife became an extension of his fury. Over and over, he drove it into her body, her arms, her chest, her throat. He stabbed her again and again. 37 times in total. Every wound was a question she never answered. Every stab was a punishment for the lies. By the time he stopped, Keria was unrecognizable. Blood soaked the sheets, splattered the walls, dripped from his trembling hands. The only sound in the house was the distant wailing of their newborn son, screaming from his crib, sensing the horror that had just unfolded. Zyrell stepped back, staring at what he had done. His breathing slowed. The rage that had consumed him was gone, leaving only emptiness in its place. He sat on the edge of the bed, knife slipping from his fingers, ignoring the growing number of missed calls from Keria's mother, who had been trying to check in. He looked down at his blood-stained hands, then up at the ceiling, blinking slowly. An hour passed before he reached for his phone. His voice, eerily calm, cut through the silence. Yeah. I just killed my wife. When police arrived, they found Zyrell sitting shirtless in the blood-soaked room, the knife resting on the nightstand. He was eerily calm as he was arrested, only speaking once to say, "She lied to me." The news spread like wildfire. Within hours, Keria Mays' name was trending across every social media platform, her face plastered across TV screens and headlines. A young, beautiful influencer. A mother. A woman who preached love and loyalty, brutally murdered by the man she once called her soulmate. People couldn't believe it. The comments flooded in by the millions. No way. This has to be fake. He loved her too much to do this. How could Zyrell kill his wife on Mother's Day? Then, the gruesome details emerged. The DNA test. The confrontation. The 37 stab wounds. The 911 call where Zyrell's voice was disturbingly calm. The world watched in horror as more pieces of the puzzle surfaced. Private messages between Zyrell and his inner circle leaked online, exposing the paranoia that had been eating him alive. In one chilling text, sent just days before the murder, he wrote, "If this baby ain't mine, she dead." Those words, once ignored as empty rage, now read like a prophecy. A death sentence he had already decided. But the most haunting discovery? Keria's own fears. Voice messages she had sent to friends in the weeks leading up to her murder painted a terrifying picture. Her once perfect love story was cracking at the seams. "Girl, I don't know what's up with ZY. He's different. He's been distant, asking weird questions about the baby. Like, I don't even recognize him anymore." Another message, just 5 days before Mother's Day. "I think he's mad at me for something, but I don't know what. He just stares at me. Doesn't talk. Doesn't touch me. I asked him if something was wrong, and he just walked away. I don't like this." Her last message, sent the night before her death, sent chills down the spines of everyone who heard it. "I don't feel safe." Screenshots of these messages flooded social media. People dissected every word, every pause, every red flag that had gone unnoticed. And just like that, battle lines were drawn. Some saw Zyrell as a man betrayed, a victim of ultimate deception. He gave her everything, and she lied to him. This is what happens when you play with a man's heart. A man can only take so much before he snaps. Others saw him for what he was, a violent narcissist who believed Keria was his possession. Paternity fraud isn't a death sentence. He planned this. He knew what he was doing. She was terrified of him, and no one listened. Keria's supporters demanded justice. They flooded the comments of Zyrell's past posts, calling him a monster, a coward, a murderer. But his fans weren't backing down. They defended him relentlessly, blaming Keria for her own death. The debate wasn't just about this one crime anymore. It had turned into something bigger, a war of perspectives on trust, masculinity, and betrayal. Who was the real victim? And did the truth even matter anymore? The search for justice began immediately. Detectives combed through every detail of Zyrell Mays' life in the weeks leading up to the murder, piecing together a timeline of obsession, paranoia, and calculated rage. The evidence was damning. Surveillance footage from their mansion showed Zyrell pacing for nearly an hour before the attack, gripping his phone, staring at the walls, muttering to himself. Forensic experts confirmed what no one wanted to believe: Keria hadn't died instantly. She had fought for her life. Her blood-stained hands told the story of a woman desperately trying to stop the man she once loved from ending her. The autopsy revealed the sheer brutality of the attack. 37 stab wounds. Most to her chest and abdomen. Deep, forceful, relentless. As if each thrust of the blade was meant to erase the humiliation he felt. And then, there was the 911 call. Prosecutors played the chilling audio in court. The courtroom fell into stunned silence as Zyrell's eerily calm voice filled the air. "I just killed my wife. No panic. No remorse. Just cold, emotionless acceptance." Zyrell's legal team scrambled for a defense. They painted him as a man consumed by passion, driven to madness by betrayal. They argued that the DNA test had sent him into a spiral, that he hadn't planned to kill Keria, it had just happened. A crime of passion, not premeditated murder. But the prosecution wasn't buying it. They had the text messages. The ones where Zyrell had already decided Keria's fate days before the test results even arrived. "If this baby ain't mine, she dead." The jury listened. And they believed it was never about passion, it was about control. They saw a man who had planned his wife's execution the moment he suspected betrayal. A man who took his time. Who waited until Mother's Day, of all days, to confront her. A man who had a choice and chose violence. Crime scene photos were shown in court. The once pristine bedroom, now soaked in blood. The walls, the sheets, the floors, evidence of a horror no one could justify. It took the jury just 4 hours to decide his fate. Guilty. First-degree murder. When the judge delivered the sentence, his words were clear and final. This was an unforgivable act of violence driven by ego. Life in prison. No parole. No second chances. Keria's family wept, holding each other as justice was served. But there was no real victory. She was gone. Their pain would never fade. And her son, her innocent child, would grow up without his mother. And that was the final, cruel twist of fate. The baby at the center of it all. He wasn't fathered by some random stranger. He was the child of a now exposed affair, with one of Zyrell's closest friends. The ultimate betrayal. One that cost Keria her life. Her family took the boy in, vowing to raise him with love, far away from the darkness that had stolen his mother. And Zyrell? He was no longer a rap king, no longer a self-made success. He was nothing more than another inmate, locked in a cage, haunted by the choices that destroyed everything he once had. A man who had everything, wealth, fame, a woman who loved him, until his paranoia, his ego, and his need for control became the only thing that mattered. And in the end, it cost him everything. This case is a tragic reminder of how unchecked emotions can turn love into something monstrous. Zyrell Mays was a young mother, a woman who should have been celebrated that day, surrounded by love and laughter. Instead, her life was stolen in the most brutal way imaginable. Zyrell Mays had everything, wealth, fame, a family. But none of it mattered when his paranoia took over. The moment he let suspicion consume him, the moment he decided he was owed vengeance, the outcome was already written. Was his paranoia justified? Or was he always a danger to Keria, waiting for the right moment to show his true nature? Could anything have stopped this tragedy, or was it inevitable from the moment he decided she was guilty? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if this story shocked you, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Because the world is full of cases where love, betrayal, and violence collide, and we're just getting started.